My girlfriend invited her ex to her graduation ceremony. As soon as he arrived, he secretly handed her something. When I asked, "What is it?" "Show me," she angrily snapped at me. "Why do you ask about things that don't concern you?" I quietly walked away from there. Later, when my girlfriend found out the true reality of her ex, she showed up at my office looking for me. I'm 29, working as a logistics coordinator for a mid-sized freight company in Charlotte. It's not glamorous, but it pays well enough and keeps me busy. The hours are long sometimes, especially during peak shipping season, but I've built a solid reputation there over the past 4 years. I'd been dating Ashley for almost 2 years when this happened. We met through mutual friends at a barbecue in the summer of 2022, and things progressed naturally. She was finishing her master's in marketing, working part-time at a boutique downtown, and we talked seriously about moving in together once she graduated. We'd even looked at a few apartments, discussed furniture, the whole 9 yards. Ashley wasn't my first serious relationship, but she was the first one where I actually saw a future. Marriage, kids, the whole package. We had our arguments like any couple. She hated that I left dishes in the sink. I hated that she was always late to everything, but nothing that felt like a red flag. She was close with her family, had a tight circle of friends from undergrad, and seemed genuinely invested in building something real with me. That's why what happened at her graduation blindsided me completely. Looking back, maybe there were signs I missed, but in the moment, everything seemed fine. It started 3 weeks before the ceremony. Ashley mentioned casually over dinner at our favorite Thai place that she'd sent an invitation to Brandon, her ex-boyfriend from college. They dated for almost 3 years before breaking up about 6 months before we met. She'd mentioned him a handful of times before, always in passing, always in the context of funny college stories or mutual friends they still had. "You invited Brandon?" I asked, setting down my fork, trying to keep my voice neutral. "Yeah, I mean, he was a big part of that time in my life," she said, not looking up from her phone as she scrolled through Instagram. "We ended on good terms. It's just a graduation. Don't be weird about it." I wasn't thrilled, but I also didn't want to be that boyfriend who couldn't handle his girlfriend having ex-friends. I'd had exes I was still cordial with. It seemed hypocritical to expect different from her. "Okay," I said, picking up my water glass. "As long as it's just friendly." "Of course it is," she said, finally looking at me with that reassuring smile I'd grown to trust. "You have nothing to worry about." I barely even talked to him anymore. The week of graduation, Ashley got increasingly stressed. Final papers to finish, presentations to deliver, coordinating with family flying in from Ohio. Her parents, her younger sister Kennedy, her Aunt Linda, they were all coming down to celebrate. I tried to help where I could, picked up her parents from the airport on Thursday evening, helped organize the dinner reservation at her favorite steakhouse for after the ceremony, made sure her cap and gown were picked up from the campus bookstore. Brandon's name didn't come up again until the actual day, and by then I'd almost forgotten about it. Update 1. May 14th, 2024. The graduation was held at the university's main auditorium at 10 a.m. It was one of those perfect spring mornings, sunny but not too hot, with a light breeze that made the flags outside the building flutter. I arrived early with Ashley's parents, her younger sister Kennedy, who was 23 and still an undergrad herself, and her Aunt Linda, who'd driven down from Raleigh. We saved seats in the middle section, took dozens of photos outside before the ceremony started, did the whole proud family thing. Ashley looked absolutely beautiful in her cap and gown, her hair curled perfectly, makeup done just right. She was genuinely happy and proud of herself, and I felt proud too. This was a huge accomplishment for her, and I'd been there supporting her through the late-night study sessions and stress breakdowns. Then Brandon showed up. I recognized him immediately from photos Ashley had shown me months ago when we were still in that phase of sharing everything about our pasts. Tall guy, maybe 6 feet 2 inches, athletic build like he still hit the gym regularly, wearing a fitted navy suit that probably cost more than my monthly car payment. He walked in alone about 20 minutes before the ceremony started, scanning the crowd with this confident, easy manner, and when he spotted Ashley near the entrance greeting some of her classmates, his whole face lit up like she was the only person in the room. I watched them hug. It lasted maybe 3 seconds too long for my comfort, but I told myself I was being paranoid. Ashley's mom actually waved him over to sit with us, which surprised me and made my stomach drop a little. Apparently, they'd stayed in touch with him too after the breakup. He'd been to family dinners, holidays, The whole thing during their 3 years together. Great. Good to see you, man, Brandon said, extending his hand to me as he squeezed past to the empty seat next to Ashley's sister. His handshake was firm, confident, the kind of handshake that said he'd been practicing it in business school. You must be the new guy? Ashley's told me about you. Yeah, nice to meet you, I said, forcing a smile that probably looked as fake as it felt. She says you work in logistics? That's cool, man. Important industry. The way he said it felt condescending, like he was patting a child on the head for trying hard. I just nodded and turned my attention back to the stage as people started filing in. The ceremony itself was fine. Long, boring in parts like all graduations, emotional when Ashley walked across the stage to receive her diploma. Her mom cried. Her dad recorded everything on his phone, fumbling with the Zoom feature. Normal graduation stuff. But I kept noticing Brandon. The way he watched Ashley throughout the ceremony, even when she was just sitting there waiting for her row to be called. The way he leaned over to whisper something to Kennedy that made her laugh. That easy familiarity of someone who'd been part of this family before and knew all the inside jokes. The way Ashley's mom reached over at one point and patted his knee like he was still her son-in-law. After the ceremony, we all gathered outside for photos. The weather was still perfect, and the quad was packed with families taking pictures in front of the university sign. That's when it happened. Brandon pulled Ashley aside, just for a moment. I was standing maybe 15 feet away, talking to her dad about the supply chain issues my company had been dealing with. I saw Brandon reach into his jacket pocket and hand her something small. A folded piece of paper, maybe? An envelope? It was quick, discreet, the kind of handoff you do when you don't want anyone to notice. Ashley took it, glanced down at it quickly, and immediately shoved it into her small purse without looking at it properly. My instincts kicked in. I walked over. Hey, what was that? Ashley turned to me, and her expression shifted instantly. Not guilty exactly, but defensive. Irritated. What? What did he just give you? Nothing, she said quickly, her hand instinctively going to her purse. It didn't look like nothing. Can I see it? Brandon was standing right there, hands in his pockets, watching our exchange with this slight smirk that made my blood pressure spike. He looked amused, like this was entertaining to him. Ashley's jaw tightened. Why do you ask about things that don't concern you? The words hit me like a slap across the face. Her parents were 10 feet away, posing for a picture. Kennedy was recording something on her phone. Everyone was in celebration mode. And here was my girlfriend of 2 years snapping at me like I'd done something wrong, like I was some paranoid, controlling boyfriend for asking a simple question. Are you serious right now? I said quietly, trying to keep my voice down so her family wouldn't hear. It's my graduation day. Can you not start something? Can you not make this about you? I looked at Brandon. He shrugged, still smirking. Just catching up, man. Relax. You're being a little intense. I didn't say anything else. I just turned and walked away from the group, heading toward the parking lot. My hands were shaking, that mixture of anger and embarrassment coursing through me. I heard Ashley call my name once, sharp and annoyed, but I didn't stop. I didn't turn around. I sat in my car for 20 minutes, gripping the steering wheel, trying to calm down and figure out what the hell just happened. Part of me wanted to drive home and be done with the whole day, text Ashley that we were finished, and block her number. But I'd promised her parents I'd be at the dinner. I'd already helped plan it, made the reservation, coordinated the whole thing. So I drove to the restaurant separately, arrived late, and sat through the most uncomfortable meal of my life. Update 2. The restaurant was one of those upscale steakhouses with dim lighting and leather booths. Ashley barely spoke to me during dinner. When she did, it was surface-level pleasantries for the benefit of her family. Can you pass the bread? How's your steak? That kind of thing. Brandon sat at the other end of the table next to Ashley's dad, charming everyone with stories about his new finance job in New York. Apparently, he was doing very well for himself, working for some investment firm in Manhattan, living in a high-rise in Tribble, making 6 figures easily. Every story was calculated to impress, and it was working. Ashley's dad kept saying things like, "That's fantastic, Brandon," and "You always were sharp with numbers." I picked at my ribeye, barely tasting it, and watched Ashley laugh at something Brandon said. Really laugh, not the polite chuckle she'd been giving me lately when I tried to be funny. After dinner, I told Ashley I wasn't feeling well and was heading home. She didn't try to stop me, didn't ask if I was okay, didn't offer to come with me. Fine, she said, not even looking at me as she checked her phone. We'll talk later. We didn't talk later. Or the next day. Or the day after that. I threw myself into work, picking up extra shifts, staying late to avoid going home to my empty apartment where everything reminded me of her. Ashley sent a few texts over the next week. Short, cold ones asking if I was done being dramatic and when I was going to stop punishing her for nothing. I didn't respond. What was there to say? She'd made me feel small in front of her family, chosen to protect some secret with her ex over being honest with me. A week passed. Then two. I started to think maybe we were actually over, and part of me was okay with that. The way she'd spoken to me, the secrecy, the attitude, it didn't sit right. I deserved better than that. I'd been a good boyfriend. Supportive, present, faithful. I'd earned basic respect. Then, on a Tuesday afternoon in early June, I got a call from the front desk at work around 2:30 p.m. "There's someone here to see you, Rita," a receptionist said. "A young woman. Says it's urgent." I wasn't expecting anyone. Deliveries went to the loading dock, and I hadn't scheduled any meetings. Did she give a name? Ashley. My stomach dropped. I told Rita to send her back to the break room and give us privacy. When I walked in, Ashley was standing by the window overlooking the parking lot, arms crossed tight across her chest, looking like she hadn't slept in days. Her eyes were red and swollen, makeup smudged like she'd been crying in the car. She was wearing sweatpants and an old college hoodie, not her usual put-together look. She turned when she heard the door close. "We need to talk," she said, her voice cracking on the last word. "Okay," I said slowly, closing the door and leaning against it. "What's going on?" She sat down at the table, hands trembling so badly she had to clasp them together. "I need to tell you something. About Brandon. About what he gave me." I pulled out a chair across from her and waited, my heart pounding. "The thing he gave me at graduation," she started, looking down at her hands like she couldn't meet my eyes. "It was a check. For $50,000. I blinked, sure I'd heard wrong. "What?" He said it was a graduation gift. He said he wanted to help me pay off my student loans because he knew how much they stressed me out. He said it was no big deal, that he had the money from bonuses and investments and wanted to do something nice for someone he used to care about. "And you took it." "I didn't cash it," she said quickly, looking up at me with desperate eyes. "I swear I didn't cash it. I didn't know what to do. He told me not to tell you because he knew you'd freak out and make it a thing. And I thought maybe he was being genuine. That maybe he just wanted to help. I know that sounds stupid now, but in the moment, I was confused." "Ashley, that's insane. Why would he give you $50,000? She started crying. Full, heaving sobs that shook her whole body. "Because he wants me back. Because he never got over me. Because he's been planning this for months and I was too stupid to see it." Update 3. Over the next hour, Ashley told me everything. And I mean everything. Brandon had reached out to her back in March. Just a casual, "Hey, how have you been?" message on Instagram. She'd responded, thinking nothing of it. They'd chatted here and there, surface-level stuff. How school was going, how her classes were, how work was going for him. He'd mentioned he was doing well financially, that his investments were paying off, that New York was treating him well. Then he started calling. Late at night, around 11 p.m. or midnight, when I was asleep or working overnight shifts for inventory counts. He'd talk about the old days, their relationship, places they'd gone together, inside jokes they'd had. How much he missed her. How breaking up was the biggest mistake of his life. Ashley swore she shut it down every time, told him she was with me and happy. But he persisted, always finding new angles, new ways to keep the conversation going. The graduation invitation was his idea. He'd asked if he could come, played the "I'm so proud of you" card, and Ashley, wanting to seem mature and unbothered, wanting to prove she could be friendly with an ex, said yes. She didn't tell me about the late-night calls because she didn't think it mattered and didn't want to start drama over nothing. The check was supposed to be his grand gesture, proof that he could provide for her in ways I couldn't. He'd told her that if she left me and came to New York with him, he'd pay off all her debt. She had about $80,000 in student loans, set her up in a nice apartment in a good neighborhood, help her find a job in marketing at one of the agencies he had connections with. He'd basically offered her a whole new life on a silver platter. "And you considered it?" I asked, my voice hollow and distant like it was coming from someone else. "No," she said, reaching across the table. I was confused. He was offering me everything I'd been stressing about for years. You know how much those loans have been weighing on me. But I didn't want him. I wanted you. I just didn't know how to tell you without it becoming this huge thing, without you hating me. So you lied. I didn't lie. I just didn't. You hid it. That's the same thing, Ashley. She wiped her eyes with the sleeve of her hoodie. I know I messed up. But I need you to hear the rest because it gets worse. Apparently, after graduation, Brandon kept pushing. Texts every day, sometimes 20 or 30 messages asking how she was, what she was doing, had she thought about his offer. Calls at all hours. Then he started showing up at her apartment unannounced. The first time, he brought flowers and said he was just in town for the day. The second time, he waited by her car in the parking lot until she came down from her apartment. When Ashley finally told him she wasn't interested and asked him to stop contacting her, he turned cruel. Vicious, even. He started sending her screenshots. Photos of us together that he'd found on social media, but poorly edited to make it look like I was with other women at bars or restaurants. Messages that appeared to be from me to other people, talking about how I was using Ashley, how I didn't really love her, how I was just killing time until something better came along. All fabricated. All manipulative. All designed to make her doubt me, doubt us. Ashley, overwhelmed and scared and not knowing who to trust, finally called Brandon's sister Harper, whom she'd been friends with during their relationship. They'd stayed in touch sporadically over the years. That's when the truth came out, and it was worse than I could have imagined. Brandon had been doing this to multiple women. His finance job in New York was real, but he'd been fired from 2 previous firms for harassment and creating hostile work environments. His family had bailed him out financially and legally more than once, paying settlements to make problems go away. The $50,000? Borrowed from his parents under false pretenses, telling them he needed it for a business investment. He was actually in massive debt, credit cards maxed out, personal loans he couldn't pay back, lying about his success, and using money he didn't have to manipulate women into relationships. His sister told me everything, Ashley said, her voice shaking. She warned me to stay away from him, that he's been spiraling for over a year. She said she tried to tell me before, right after graduation, but Brandon had blocked her number on my phone somehow. He'd been monitoring my accounts, my messages. She said he's been doing this since we broke up, trying to get me back, obsessing over me. I sat back, processing. The break room suddenly felt too small, the fluorescent lights too bright. Why are you telling me this now? Because I'm sorry. Because you were right to question me. Because I should have been honest with you from the start, and I wasn't. And because I need you to know that I chose you. I never cashed that check. I ripped it up yesterday. I blocked him everywhere. Instagram, Facebook, phone, everything. I filed a police report for harassment this morning. I'm done with him. Completely done. She reached across the table, trying to take my hand. I pulled back instinctively. Ashley, I don't know if I can do this. Please, she whispered, tears streaming down her face. I love you. I made a mistake, but I love you. We can work through this. Final update. I didn't give her an answer that day. I told her I needed time to think, to process everything she'd just dumped on me, and she left my office looking broken. I spent the next week going over everything in my head. The lies, the secrecy, the disrespect at graduation, but also the fact that she'd come clean eventually, that she'd tried to make it right, that she'd been manipulated by someone who clearly had issues. I talked to my older brother about it. He's been married for 8 years, has 2 kids, knows more about relationships than I do. He said trust is like glass. Once it's shattered, you can glue it back together, but you'll always see the cracks. That stuck with me. In the end, I couldn't get past the way she'd spoken to me at graduation. The dismissiveness. The way she'd prioritized Brandon's feelings over mine, even for a moment. The way she'd made me feel like I was crazy for asking a simple question. That wasn't something I could just forget, no matter how sorry she was now. 2 weeks later, I met Ashley at a coffee shop near campus and told her it was over. She cried, begged me to reconsider, promised she'd do anything to make it right. But I held firm. I wasn't angry anymore, just tired. Tired of feeling like I was fighting for respect in my own relationship, tired of wondering if she was being honest with me. I hope you find what you're looking for, I said. But it's not going to be with me. Brandon, from what I heard through mutual friends, got arrested in September for fraud and stalking related to another woman he'd been harassing. Apparently, he'd taken out credit cards in his parents' names and racked up over $100,000 in debt. His family cut him off completely, refused to bail him out anymore. Last I heard, he was living in some cheap apartment in Jersey City, working retail at a mall while waiting for his court date. Ashley moved to Denver in August for a job opportunity with a marketing agency out there. Good for her, honestly. She texted me once to let me know she was leaving, to apologize again, to say she understood why I couldn't forgive her. I wished her well. We haven't spoken since. As for me, I'm doing okay. Better than okay, honestly. I adopted a dog in July, a rescue mutt named Cooper, who's become my best friend. Started going to the gym more consistently, lost 15 pounds. Got a promotion at work in October that came with a decent raise. I'm not looking for anything serious right now, and that feels good. I'm focusing on myself, on building the life I want without having to worry about someone else's drama. Edit 1. A few people have asked if I ever found out what the other messages Brandon sent her said. I didn't ask for details, and she didn't offer. Honestly, I didn't want to know. Whatever he said, it was manipulative garbage designed to mess with her head and break us up. That's all I needed to know. Reading the actual text would have just made me angrier at both of them. Edit 2. For anyone wondering, no, I never met Brandon again after that day. Part of me wishes I'd confronted him in the parking lot, told him exactly what I thought of him. But I think walking away was the smarter move. Guys like that feed off drama and confrontation. The best revenge was just removing myself from the situation entirely and letting his own behavior catch up with him. Edit 3. Someone DM'd me asking if I regret not giving Ashley a second chance. Honestly, no. I think she genuinely did love me, and I think she learned from the situation. But trust, once it's broken like that, is almost impossible to rebuild. At least for me. Maybe I'm too rigid about it, but I'd rather be alone than constantly wondering if I'm being lied to. I hope she's doing well out in Denver, but I'm glad I moved on.